this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
We will pursue charges in this case. I see various crimes that have occurred. Exactly what they are, I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the predicates there. In other cases, the Biden DOJ used the Klan Act conspiracy charges tacked on to the FACE Act in the case of protests outside abortion clinics to bring much longer sentences. So there are a number of tools available to us.
You're listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson.
Good Tuesday morning. Nice to have you with us on the 47 Morning Update. We've got one big story for you, and that is this. The Department of Homeland Security has arrested at least 10,000 criminal illegal aliens in Minneapolis. The media, of course, doesn't want you to know the story. Kristi Noem is saying the record straight about what the Trump administration has been doing and just how many of these criminals were dangerous and violent, as well as sexual predators. So why is the media not telling you that part of the story? We'll explain that and give you the facts. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Every so often, something happens that reminds us just how fragile our freedoms are. We can't afford to take our rights for granted. We must draw a line in the sand. And our friends at Patriot Mobile have been doing just that for more than 12 years. The truth is, there is only one provider that boldly stands in the gap for Americans who believe freedom is worth fighting for. And that company is Patriot Mobile. Not only are they leading the red economy, they're also outpacing the competition in technology. Patriot Mobile is one of the only carriers offering premium access to all three major U.S. networks, giving you nationwide coverage and service that you can count on day after day. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and so much more. And switching has never been easier. You can activate in minutes on your phone from your home or your office. And you keep your same number you've got now, keep your same phone, or upgrade to a new one. And this is where the magic happens. Every month, about 5% of your bill is given back to conservative causes at no extra cost to you that stand up for our First and our Second Amendment rights, the rights of unborn children, and our wounded warriors, and those that have fought for our country and wear a badge. So take a stand today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Ben47 or call 972-PATRIOT. And if you use the promo code Ben47, you're going to get a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Ben47 or 972-PATRIOT and make the switch today. It's the 47 Morning Update, and it starts right now.
Story number one.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying on Monday that federal authorities have arrested more than 10,000 criminal illegal aliens in Minneapolis alone. She added that investigators have opened what she described as a sweeping fraud probe totaling at least $19 billion, sharpening her criticism of the Minnesota Governor Walz and the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey for what she called a failure to protect public safety. In a statement, Noem said the Department of Homeland Security law enforcement officers carried out the arrests and that about 3,000 were made in the past 6 weeks alone. She said those arrests included murderers, rapists, child sex offenders, and other violent criminals. But the media, they don't want you to know this story. Kristi Noem is a great example of one of those that the so-called media loves to go after. And on Sunday morning, on Face the Nation on CBS, there was this exchange. And it was amazing because Kristi Noem took the anchor to the woodshed over her own lies. I want you to listen to the DHS secretary destroying CBS News' Margaret Brennan over the ICE arrests and listen to the bias that was on the show that she didn't allow to become reality.
You just said millions. What's the breakdown of the percentage of those who you have in custody who have actually committed a criminal offense versus just the civil infraction?
Every single individual has committed a crime, but 70% of them have committed or have charges against them on violent crimes and crimes that they are charged with or have been convicted of that have come from other countries that are here illegally, first of all, and then they have committed a criminal act while they've been here or in their home countries as well.
It's not 70%.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
70% of everyone
you guys keep changing your percentage. You pick and choose what numbers you think work, but that is the facts, is that 70% of the people that we have detained have charges against them or have been convicted of charges, and they need to be brought to justice. And we're going to keep doing that no matter how much you guys keep lying and don't tell the public the truth. It absolutely is that these law enforcement officers are out there every day doing the work to protect the American people, and they will keep doing that because they believe in enforcing the law, which is exactly what President Trump has charged them with.
You listen there to, again, the lies coming from CBS News. They try to spin the numbers. They try to say what she said is not accurate. And then when they're called out on it, you notice how quiet Brennan shut down because she knows that this is the actual number. Which also brings us to another part of this story. You may not know the headline that I'm about to give you. And that is the DOJ is investigating the Minnesota governor as well as the Minneapolis mayor. They're both decrying the probe as a, quote, intimidation tactic. And the liberal media is more than happy to spin it that way exactly for them. CNN doing a perfect job of giving you state-sponsored media from the governor and the mayor as they reported on this story between Jake Tapper and Caitlin Collins. Listen to how they tried to explain the story to you so that you think that somehow Donald Trump is the one doing something wrong, not the mayor who said that we should get the ICE agents the F out of his city, or the governor who said it's civil war. And let's also be clear. Why are they saying that? Because billions of dollars have been coming into their state and have been disappearing through corruption, fraud, and much of the money actually going directly to terrorist organizations like Al-Shabaab. There is a massive fraud in the entire state, and they don't want the federal government there trying to clean it up. So CNN says, yeah, we'll give you cover to that. No problem.
Have confirmed that the Justice Department is investigating Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. A source familiar has told me that confirms what was reported earlier by CBS. And essentially, Jake, as we're still trying to figure out what exactly the contours of this investigation are, we have a pretty good idea so far. And we heard from the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche earlier this week after we had heard these comments from Mayor Frey, from Governor Walz, following the shooting of a woman by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. Earlier this week, Todd Blanche was saying that ICE operates in a bunch of different counties without incidents going on. He referred to what's happening in Minnesota as an insurrection and said it's the direct result of a failed governor and an all caps terrible mayor who he accused of encouraging violence against law enforcement, something that Todd Blanche called disgusting. And he said, I'm focused on stopping you from your terrorism by whatever means necessary. So, Jake, I think that gives us a pretty good sense of what exactly it is that the Justice Department is at least trying to base this investigation off of. Where it goes, it's not really clear right now, but this does come as the FBI director and the Deputy Attorney General were seen in Minneapolis today as they've been surging law enforcement to the area as those tensions have only continued since the shooting of Renee Good. But it does show you, Jake, who the Justice Department is focusing their targets on when it comes to the aftermath of the shooting of Renee Good here. And right now it is the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and the mayor here, both of whom have been criticized by multiple White House officials for their comments, including Mayor Frey telling ICE to get the F out of Minneapolis the day that she was killed, and Governor Walz as well making multiple public comments talking about the massive federal presence in their state. And so now it's an investigation by the Justice Department. It's not clear yet, Jake, that either of them have actually been served subpoenas as a result of this and where this is going to go. It seems to be in the very early stages of whatever investigation this is. But that is what we have learned so far, Jake.
You notice there, they didn't talk about the actual problems in Minnesota. They did not talk about the fraud. They didn't talk about the millions that turn into billions of dollars that have gone missing from the taxpayers. No. Instead, what did they do there? They made up a totally different issue. And that was some sort of retaliation or retribution, as they described it, for a Trump administration they claim is angry. Yes, the Trump administration, by the way, is angry. They're angry that billions of dollars of our tax dollars have gone missing in corruption and fraud, that the governor and the mayor look the other way on purpose. Which brings us back to Kristi Noem and what she had to say on Monday. That federal authorities have not only arrested more than 10,000 criminal illegal aliens in Minneapolis, but she added that investigators have opened what she described as that sweeping fraud probe, totaling at least $19 billion, and then explaining it very clearly. This is at the government's footsteps. This is at the feet of the governor of Minnesota and the mayor of Minneapolis. She also made it clear that the worst of the worst are who they're targeting in Minnesota. And we are finding the rapists, the child sex offenders, the violent criminals, the murderers. Noem writing this, peace and public safety in Minneapolis. We have arrested over 10,000 criminal illegal aliens who were killing Americans, hurting children, and raining terror in Minneapolis because Tim Walz and Jacob Frey refused to protect their own people and instead protect criminals. Noem continued, in the last 6 weeks, our brave Department of Homeland Security law enforcement have arrested 3,000 criminal illegal aliens, including vicious murderers, rapists, child pedophiles, and incredibly dangerous individuals. A huge victory for public safety. Noem also alleged massive fraud, in her own words, totaling, as she described it, at least $19 billion, and said Homeland Security investigation agents were conducting large-scale investigations aimed at recovering money and holding those responsible accountable. Noem, by the way, did not provide any details outside of that. Why? Well, of course, because she doesn't want the criminals to know what we're actually doing. But what she did say was this. There is massive fraud in Minneapolis, at least $19 billion. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Our Homeland Security investigators are on the ground in Minneapolis conducting wide-scale investigations to get justice for the American people who have been robbed blind. Now, you notice she didn't say Minnesota. She said $19 billion in Minneapolis, one single city in America. DHS, by the way, not releasing records, names, or other details. Why? Because, of course, they don't want to help the criminals know what's coming. Now, we also know that the Justice Department is investigating whether Walz and Frey impeded federal immigration enforcement through public statements, according to people familiar with that investigation. Both Walz and Frey have criticized the investigation, and of course, as you heard from CNN earlier, they're describing it as an intimidation tactic. No, it's an actual massive investigation. One other thing that's also really interesting is a federal judge in Minneapolis has barred DHS agents from arresting what they describe as peaceful protesters who are not suspected of crimes or obstructing officers after residents alleged violations of their constitutional rights while observing or protesting immigration raids. Noem's fraud allegations also arrive against the backdrop of Minnesota's long-running Feeding Our Future case, a high-profile federal investigation tied to pandemic-era child nutrition programs. What we know about this is shocking. Minnesota's Office of the Legislative Auditor summarized that the U.S. Department of Justice has now charged not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, not 60, but 70 individuals between September of 2022 and February of 2024 in connection with a suspected $250 million scheme involving federally funded nutrition programs, and said the alleged fraud centered on the Minnesota nonprofit Feeding Our Future. Walz's office previously said it had not received notice of the Justice Department's investigation, while Frey said the probe appears aimed at just intimidating him for opposing what he called dangerous federal actions in his city. One thing is for sure, the Trump administration is not backing down. And because of President Trump's leadership, others are doing their jobs the way they're supposed to. That includes Kristi Noem, the FBI, and Kash Patel, and many others who are now going to hold those accountable in Minnesota for the crimes that they've committed. And that, my friends, is far from, quote, intimidation, even if CNN lies to you and says otherwise.
Thank you for listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson. Please make sure you hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. And for more in-depth news, also subscribe to the Ben Ferguson Podcast, and we will see you back here on Monday morning.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.